So a little bit about me. I was a software engineer for 13 years, and then I got into AppSec. So I led AppSec teams at large and small companies, Staples, Fivetran, and so forth. I now am co-founder of a company called Catalyst, and we help with security champion programs and helping build security culture. I created a meetup. I co-founded a meetup. It's called Let's Talk Software Security. It's essentially yes, thank you. It's essentially an open discussion, okay? And it's a little bit different than you might be used to because it's not people talking at you. It's more of everyone's there. We all have an open discussion on a topic for 2 hours every month. It's amazing. So highly recommend you check it out. I have 3 kids and a wife, and that's enough. So go ahead.
Cool. Born and raised in Israel. I live in Massachusetts with my wife and 3 kids. I moved to the US with 2 dogs. Got another one, lost one recently, so I still have her on the pictures, probably forever. I used to run long distance before I moved to Boston area, and it's too cold to run there most of the year, so I stopped. In AppSec since 2007, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mob. Now, one thing that I like to say in conferences, I hate it when you come to a session and it's a product pitch, because it's not fair for you guys. So if at any point you feel that someone is talking about Catalyst too much, boo him, right? Be loud, like boo, and he will stop, right? Pay attention. And feel free to scan or later. So let's start. The agenda for today, we'll do introduction of the subject, of the topic. Sorry for losing my voice, I yelled a lot in the past few days. What is the role of the security champion in the process? Some cultural shifts that are needed, and leverage technology on how to do it better. Now, unlike other talks here, no AI was harmed in creation of this session.
Yeah, I found this responsible AI disclosure. Totally check it out. So it's a way to just say, hey, no AI was harmed in the making of this presentation.
Which means that it didn't allow me to use any AI-generated images.
Exactly. I put that on there when he was creating content, and I'm like, no, we're not going to do this.
So let's start. Before we go, come on, dude, you're ruining
I knew this would happen.
My motion. Ignore that. I wanted to use the Sharpie and act as if I'm painting it, but now ruined the joke. We'll start with about the DevOps. So as you know, now because someone ruined it, I'm painting now 3 circles, the gold circle of the why, how, what. You know that from Mr. Sinek? So why DevOps? Why do we even have that? The idea is to help organization. I know we'd like to talk about security, but let's start with DevOps. The idea was to help organization deliver software faster and more reliable. The initial concept was reliable was also secure. Someone forgot that when they moved from the blueprints to reality. The how, basically by fostering collaboration, automation, and continuous feedback across the teams. Nothing new here, right? And it worked. What was the outcome? Faster releases, improved quality, greater operational functionality. It actually worked. Now, the question is, why did it work? Any ideas? Why did DevOps work? We like the interaction, and not just between us. So, yeah.
Maybe the business liked it because things moved faster?
The business liked it, right? It made sense. You make money from it. It's not some, if you misbehave, a cop will come or something. Right. So let's think about the other element. Let's add something small. DevSecOps, right? SecOps was bolted in on DevOps, sadly. People read the Project Phoenix here? Mm-hmm. Anyone like the security guy there? What was his name?
John.
John.
Yeah.
Anyone liked him?
We like this guy.
Yeah. So, why did we need DevSecOps? Right? The idea was we wanted to ensure. Alex, you already left? Okay. The idea, they left. I'm losing people. That's because of you. The idea was to ensure that the software is delivered in the speed of DevOps, but it's also secured, right? That's the noble cause. He came back. Thank you. Oh, man. Okay, how? And this is the plan, right? The theoretical idea. How? By shifting security left. Everyone knows shift left, right? Yeah. Who here still likes the term shift left? You can stand out and leave the room. Right, that's okay. Is it part of your vendor pitch? Okay. using automated security tools and promoting collaboration across development, operations, and security teams, right? The same concept like DevOps. It's like DevOps plus a little bit more. And what was the concept? Secure, high-quality software. I'm still losing people. Delivered quickly and efficiently. It's like a teacher. I have eyes in my back. Reducing vulnerabilities and improving compliance, right? All the good things. But this didn't work really well. And why? Because no one saw that they have a problem. If they can't see the solution, it's not that they didn't see that there is a solution. They followed it with DevOps. They didn't see that there is a problem. They don't believe you guys and girls when you're telling them there is a problem. No, there isn't. It's a different. We like to say that security is like a QA defect. No, it's not. QA defect, they are reproducing easily. And if it's not reproduced easily, is Ruchita here? I think she told me once. It's not about that, because anyone here fixes a QA defect that requires 20 steps and going outside and coming back in and spinning around twice? No, you don't, because your users are not going to do that. This is how developers react to security issues. No, no one will do that. It's too hard. So let's go back to this painting. And what happened to the DevSecOps? And I'm losing another one. Why? Right? What did we actually do? I was a vendor in the past in the application security scanning space. And what we said, hey, here's a tool. To work here, put it in Jenkins. Integrate it into Jenkins. Great. Now you can scan as part of your Jenkins. So we did that part. And we are still releasing in the speed of DevOps. But are we releasing anything secure? Dude, I'm losing them. I think I need to pass to you.
Yeah, maybe. I'll handle it in a minute. If
Yeah.
Get with it.
Were we able to reduce vulnerabilities? I see some notes. Thank you. Did we actually shift left? Dude, I'm about to start crying, by the way. Folks at home, I have people leaving the room. Thank you. I appreciate it. Those that are still here, I love you guys. Now the cool part, is there a collaboration between development, operation, and security teams? Yeah, we can just remove that. That's like a legend. So did we release secure product? Doubtful. Now, we had back and forth on it. He told me, Eitan, you cannot say DevSecOps is broken, because some get it right. So if you're one of those unicorns, I bless you, right? Back to you now.
Yeah. Am I going to click it? You're going to click it?
I'm not touching.
Okay. So we need a mindset shift, okay? And how many of you all realize that security was actually part of DevOps, defined that way anyway, right? So what happened? Why did we have to put security right in the middle? It's because people sort of forgot about that, right?
Dude, this is amazing. They're coming back.
It wasn't an enabler, right?
They're coming back now.
See, right? It's no offense.
Yeah.
But to talk about the DevOps movement, I mean, frankly, it took time, right? And we needed to make sure that everyone knew that there was no silver bullet when we were rolling out DevOps. The same is true with DevSecOps as well, right? So there's no silver bullet. And I think, I don't know, we have a tendency to like look for that silver bullet. Like AI, comes out, starts to get popular. We go, hey, maybe AI is gonna like help us and solve all of our problems, right? It just doesn't work that way, right? So you have to, and we'll go into this more, but automation won't save you. AI won't save you, okay? There's fundamental things that we have to really lean into if we want our DevSecOps movement to work, okay? So this is actually from a strategy that I typically use in my AppSec programs. And I wanted to just sort of share this with everybody because I think there's a very important foundation that has to be built if you're gonna actually make a difference at your company. It's actually based on relationships, okay? So this foundation to eventually get to where we're preventing risk, which is sort of the ultimate goal, is based on a foundation of building relationships and connecting with people, okay? Can you imagine accomplishing anything without actually connecting with people at your organization? Absolutely not, right? So we really need to lean into that, okay? From there, educating folks, helping them understand the importance of security ultimately, right? And then we can start to build on that, finding risk, fixing risk, and then eventually doing more root cause analysis to figure out the core issues at your company to prevent risk ultimately, okay? Make sense?
Dude,
They're all staying.
they all
So-
leave the room because of you now. I at least kept some of them.
We'll talk about that more. There's a strong business case that you can make for preventing risk. Okay, how many of you have seen this or have heard of this? Okay, this is back from a study in the 90s by NIST. Okay, I sourced it correctly way down here. It's the point is it's very expensive to fix issues in production versus earlier in the cycle. Okay, so if we're going to talk about shifting left, okay, that's still relevant if you talk about the SDLC. Because it's important to fix things and prevent issues earlier in the life cycle, right? It's a huge money saver, okay? So that's how you make the business case.
All I'm saying, when I started, we had double the people in the room. I'm just saying.
It's a little light competition here, huh?
It's not a competition, to be fair, now.
Okay, so when we have a DevSecOps transformation is change, right? So we really need to lean into these concepts of change, okay? That's what it's all about. This is how change happens at companies, okay? How many of you have seen this? This is called the diffusion of innovation, okay? It basically represents a population, and it shows essentially that there are smaller subsets of the population that are early adopters and innovators, and then you have subsets of the population that are essentially laggards, okay? And what this means is when you have a change or a transformation like DevSecOps, you're gonna have people that get excited about it, that understand it, they start to get on board with the whole thing, right? Those are your early adopters. But then you also have the other side, people who are like, what is this? This is different, I'm not comfortable with this, right? I don't really wanna do this. Those are essentially your laggards, okay? And what we need to do is we really need to lean into the early adopters. Don't worry about the laggards at first, okay? But those people that do get it, you want to make sure that you connect with them and you start to educate them, just like we talked about before, right? You educate them, they become advocates for your cause so that you can eventually cross this chasm and reach the majority and then eventually even reach the laggards, okay? And this is a thing that I think that we're missing in our DevSecOps movements.
I think now is the time to say that all those who were actors that we hired just to prove this point, we had the innovators that left. You saw it took time for the early adopters, and then everyone left. We still have people in the room, just saying.
All right, so this is actually from a video. Does anyone recognize this? Has anyone seen this? This is amazing. I love this video. I'm happy. So the link is down here. I'm happy to send you the link if you send me a note, but here's what happened. They're at like this event, right? And this guy over here is just going crazy, dancing by himself, okay? Not a care in the world, just going crazy in his own little world. Everyone's looking at him like, what the heck are you doing? You know, this is weird, this is kind of awkward, we're all in the grass, we're hanging out, this guy's going crazy, okay? Then what happens is this guy joins him and he starts to dance with him, okay? Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, he's not a lone dancing guy anymore. There's actually someone else that joined him, right? Okay, and so one thing that happens if you watch closely in the video is that this guy sort of welcomes him in as well. He says, okay, cool, like we're gonna dance together, and they do a few moves together, right? So it's okay that this guy joined is the point. Like he's dancing, but he wants other people to join him is kind of the message that he's sending, right? And then all of a sudden you have a few other people join in, and then you see everybody get up and start to dance and basically the whole crowd joins, right? It's just amazing to see. Okay, so what does this represent in terms of how to start a movement at our companies? A few things. You know, first of all, be that fearless leader. Be that first person that's trying to make a difference in your company, right? And then when that advocate steps up and says, hey, I like what you're doing, welcome them in, right? And now that you're dancing together, eventually you're gonna have everyone else join you, so.
But how do you resist the urge to pull more people in yourself?
Well, I think it's okay to like pull people in. I think it's okay to say, hey, you wanna dance? And if they kind of reject you, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna keep doing my thing, you know? But yeah, you wanna welcome those early adopters, essentially. So yeah, it's a good question. So Stephen Covey, this is a quote by him. The point is, any of you can start a change, okay? Any of you can get excited about that. You can be that dancing guy, okay? You can start that movement at your company, okay? How many of you know who this is, by the way? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Great book. highly recommend that book. It takes a long time. It takes patience and so forth. Yeah, go ahead. Do you want to take a picture of that? Anyway, so it's a great quote, and I think it's inspiring, right? Because any of us can start that movement at our companies. So essentially, we need those allies, right? So we need those early adopters. I'm going to summarize some of the points that I've made here. Innovators and early adopters are needed to push your change forward, okay? It's those first followers that actually influence other people. And I hate to say this because I'm a security person, but people are actually more willing to listen to non-security people, like their peers, talk about security than to you as a security person, okay? So you have to win over those first followers and have them be advocates for your change. Like I said before, be patient. It does take time. It takes a lot of time to do this right, okay? So a few tips here. So making a strong business case to pursue actual leadership support, you're gonna need leadership support, okay? Hopefully some of your first followers might be those leaders. Now, that may not always happen. A lot of times those leaders are laggards, right? What do you do in that case? You still find those allies, because even if the leaders start to hear it from other people, and it sort of becomes something that a lot of people are talking about, they're gonna wanna jump on board as well, right? Obtain and maintain buy-in by asking people to weigh in and then listening, okay? So listening is extremely important in a case like this, right? So it's welcoming that first follower in by listening to them. Like, you're not quite dancing as well as I am, but you are dancing, right? And tell me about what you think of my dancing, that sort of stuff. Like really listening to other people in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. Sharing small wins along the way. Okay, this is about building momentum. So the more you can show, hey, there's little things that we're doing and they're working, and if you can collect metrics about those things and share those things with people along the way, you can start to build that momentum and you can start to build even more support, okay? Now, a little caveat to that is don't call the win early. So those small wins shouldn't be called the big win. Hey, we made it. We are done with our DevSecOps transformation, right? No, those were just small wins along the way. There's still a lot of work to do, to eventually get it to be adopted by everybody else. So don't call the win too early. Avoid negative social proof. Okay, I've heard this a lot in talks. I'm gonna pick on you a little bit. Saying things like, hey, how come no one's speaking up during the meeting, right? That actually is negative social proof, meaning that people are less likely to actually speak up. Or if you say, hey, how come nobody's following this movement that I'm creating, right? People are like, oh, nobody's following the movement that I'm creating. Or people are leaving the room. Why are people leaving the room? Maybe this talk isn't that great.
They stopped leaving when I pointed that.
Well, they're missing these gems at this point.
Yeah.
So really calling out and making it a positive experience for people and saying, hey, everyone who's here, we're glad you're here. There's a lot of people here. This is exciting. This is fun, right? Stuff like that. That really sort of reinforces the social proof aspect of it. All right, so time to build on that foundation. Now that we've learned a little bit, there's a lot here. There's sort of a rabbit hole of information that you can learn here, but now that we've learned a little bit more about the importance of connecting and building relationships and educating folks, now we can sort of move on to finding risk, fixing risk, and then eventually preventing risk. So, to you.
Sure. So the problem that we are trying to address is we tried a lot of things. We introduced tools instead of working on the change, collaboration. Let's not try to use those same tools to get out of the problem because they got us there in the first place. If you think a little bit about the DevOps automation tools, they came up with all sorts of tools that we never heard before. They didn't just try to say, oh, use that bash script in your automation and this works, right? New things were developed. So let's think about what we have today at DevSecOps. We are instructing everyone to do threat modeling and secure policies and secure code training. Some of those secure code training we love. Matthias here. If you don't know Matthias, raise your hand. Go and check Secure Code Warrior, right? If there is any other secure code training, sorry, I don't know you, so I won't flatter you. But in reality, most of what organizations do is focusing on the secure policies and not investing enough in the other areas. which basically means here's a list of things that you need to do, right? And then we go to the next part of code. Yes, IDE spell check. How many people here ask for, is there an IDE plugin that I can install on all the developers or environment and it will just find things earlier and fix it earlier? And then they learn that none of the developers actually use it, and some of your developers don't even use IDE, and it's hard. At least sometimes you can get on scan on every code change, which gives them a long list of findings that they need to address. But this is easy still, because on the next step, on the build, you're introducing SAST, NSCA, and IAC scanning, and secret scanning, because vendors told you, shift it left, scan earlier. You will find things earlier, you will fix them earlier, but what you did is this. And if that wasn't enough, we added on the tests. Hey, we can add DAST, and IAST, and API testing, and what does this? It just adds more. And then we're saying, okay, we'll do security gates. You cannot push anything to production until you fix those. That turns to SLAs. For those in the back, that says 2030. Because at the end, it's just asking for exceptions on why don't I meet the SLAs. So that wasn't enough. We added pen testing and bug bounties, and we had more very accurate set of findings. And if we didn't fix everything, if we didn't fix enough, we still have tools, old tools to deal with what comes in. So that was this direction. Now let's go back with some new tools and technologies. So anyone here know what ADR is? Wow, Oligo and Contrast are not doing a good enough job. Go downstairs to the Oligo booth, ask about it. It's application detection response.
eBPF?
Yeah.
eBPF tools?
Yes, also. So that's the new approach of, and the reason is because before that you were logging things and someone needed to respond, but guess what? You don't have time. You need to respond much, much faster. It needs to be automated, a lot of it. So seriously, go down, talk to Oligo. Then, I'm sure that everyone here met at least 40 or 50 ASPM tools. ASPMs, and maybe some of them talk to you about reachability and exploitability. Those are awesome tools. What they help you is clear the noise. So instead of looking at all the mess, just focus on these areas, because let's face it, you cannot fix everything. I'm on the side of talking my own book, fix everything. But you cannot fix, and ASPMs are good because they prioritize the work for you. I love the pictures. By the way, you can later get all the deck if you reach out to us. I'll share it. And the important part is, we were talking, I forgot to mention earlier, and I'm surprised, Dustin, that you didn't call it out. All this side, we said, hey, we have security champions, right? We have people in our organization that will help the dev team to address the issues here, fix findings, help implement, help train, but we never recognize their effort. So here's another task that you have, and guess what? We will allow you in your title to write secure champion. Yes. No, it doesn't work. You need to recognize their effort. So when ASPM finds something, someone needs to fix those issues. If they fix, recognize that. You don't own the code, your developers own the code. You need their help. Now we get to my favorite part, of course, automatic remediation, new technologies. If anyone went to the SaaS, to the startup floor, there are a few vendors that are talking about automatic remediation. It's a new technology, not just for static analysis, by the way. New technology that automatically generates code fixes for the findings. But even after you generate the code finding, someone needs to commit the code, so recognize that someone that took responsibility and did the right thing. But ASPM gives you more than that, by the way. ASPM shows you what went wrong, what you need to address, so maybe we can try to learn from that and plan in the future. What happened? Oh, before that, sorry. I had this amazing animation. You see, we didn't practice enough. Automatic remediation clears a lot of the noise, right? It removes a lot of the findings, mostly low-hanging fruits, but not all. And it can clear a lot, but you still have a lot of work. So learn from your ASPM findings and plan ahead and do the retrospective of why did we get to this point in the first place.
Yeah, so essentially what you want to do is reinforce your developers' actions, right? So this is essentially a flywheel. And the whole idea here is to break the cycle of like begging people to actually fix findings. How many people feel like they're doing that, right? Like, here's a bunch of findings. Can you please fix them? I'm just going to sort of follow up and bother people until they fix the things, right? Does anyone like to be bothered? No. How do we switch the conversation and start to reinforce behaviors that we want to see, right? So the idea is, as actions are taken, fixing vulnerabilities, closing tests in Jira, taking trainings. I'm sure he's not even paying attention. I've got his logo right there.
We have his logo here, and he's not paying attention. Matthias, come on.
That's totally fine.
Giving you so much kudos here.
Anyway, so as they do things that we want to positively reinforce, we need to make sure that we are detecting those things and then rewarding people for doing those things, right? There's a lot of things you can lean into here, like gamification type of methods, things like leveling systems, trying to recognize people. There's an acronym that I like to use called SAPS, Status, Access, Power, and Stuff. These are different types of rewards that you can give people to actually reinforce them taking action. Then the idea is they'll continue to take action because they're getting rewarded, recognized for the things that they're doing, and then they'll continue to do those things, right? And you set up this positive sort of flywheel of action going forward. So.
Remember, we're talking about changes, right? It's not just the automated tools that you put in. It's not just take that scanner that you had on-prem for 20 years and integrate it into the tool, or take this shiny new toy that some startup came up with and put it in. Because at the end, you need buy-in from developers. You need buy-in from the business. That requires change, and changes happen over time.
Exactly. Well said. All right, so in summary, and feel free to jump in if I miss anything. Remember that DevOps was a journey, and DevSecOps is the same, okay? DevSecOps is a journey, so let's lean in.
Do you remember when DevOps was introduced, by the way? Which year? Anyone here? Take a wild guess. 2010,
Yeah,
2009, 2010.
Yeah.
When did it actually, everyone started to use it? It took a few years. It required new technologies. They didn't try old technology. It required change. No developers ever wanted to actually do operations, do the DevOps, right? So don't expect that DevSecOps is just going to happen because you took your SaaS solution and put it in the pipeline. It takes time.
For sure. There is technology to help you. Second point, tech and AI won't save you. You need to lean into the cultural aspects. You need to sort of set up that flywheel of recognition and rewards if you're going to make effective culture change. And remember to celebrate wins and communicate those to leadership so you can get more momentum behind your efforts. So, anything else to add?
Not for now.
We good?
No,
Okay.
you did great.
Sweet. So did you.
This is a kudos for you. You actually did good.
And a lot of people stayed,
Yeah.
right? A lot
Yeah.
of people stayed, and this is fantastic.
The people that we wanted to stay stayed.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
All right. So, thank you. Questions? These are safe QR codes, don't worry. So feel free to connect with us. These are just our LinkedIn profiles, and we both got pointers here. So, questions?
Yes.
Anything? Yep.
What recognition and rewarding techniques, processes have you found the most impactful?
So I mentioned recognition.
Wait. You need to repeat the question. Come on.
Okay, so the question was what
And it
sort of
wasn't
rewards?
shaming you. I was just
No, it's fine. What sort of rewards have been effective in reinforcing actions, essentially? So I mentioned SAPs, okay? So the reason that I like to talk about SAPs, it's a gamification concept, okay? Status, access, power, and stuff is because a lot of people think of rewards as just stuff, like money. How do we pay people? How do we like buy them pizza, and do basic things like that? But there's actually more impactful rewards like status and recognition. Things like, hey, this person has been doing a really good job fixing vulnerabilities. They're now the vulnerability fixer of the month, something like that, to give them that pride and that status and share that in front of the company if you can, right? I think that's highly impactful, especially because a lot of the things I've studied about developers, and I was a developer myself, I think we really want to feel like we're accomplishing something, and we want to feel like we're being recognized for the things that we're doing ultimately. So I think those things are very impactful. And then having things like, access. So access is the second letter of that acronym. maybe you can't use certain tools or you're not privy to certain information unless you sort of earn it. Okay, so one of the things I've done with my champion programs is have essentially access to maybe some information about the breaches that happen at your company, but only if you earned that status, because it means, hey, we can trust you with that information. I've found that sort of stuff to be pretty impactful, so hopefully that helps.
Do you revoke a status if someone does a lot of code reviews and you can see that they don't really do the code review, they just pass it? Do you revoke their...
You got to be careful. I mean, you can really discourage people if you punish them in that way.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's warranted. We find that with like phishing, right, where somebody's like a repeat offender, and you've tried to positively reinforce that, but it's not really working.
But
I think
you
there
deny
is a
their
place
emails?
for punishing folks.
What do you do? Do you deny emails from that person?
Yeah, maybe they lose their account access, in certain areas.
Okay.
Or roles are changed or something like that. Oh, did someone else?
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Kind of expand on your last point of saying like, hey, you're really great. You get access to cool stuff. I was kind of thinking, trying to do like a little bit different way of saying like, hey, there's this current process you have to do, bureaucracy, blah, 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 but you're really great. You should not have to do that bureaucracy because we trust you. Thoughts?
I love that. Yeah, it's hard to do that sometimes with compliance. Well, so one of the things that I would
just
love
a second.
to do.
So the idea was on the access, because I repeat the question now. You see,
You're very good at that.
The idea was on the value, on the recognition. Maybe we can tell someone that did a good job, you're so awesome that you don't need to do this training because you already know it, and we saved you the 5 hours of watching videos that no one cares about.
Yeah, which was exactly what I was going to say. So,
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Do you want to continue to expand
No,
on
I
that?
certainly don't.
I was even thinking further than that. Like sometimes we need to like have like security approve this thing. If you're really that good and you prove that you did security things, I don't care. You're not the security org.
Yeah.
In some capacity, I should trust you more, and recognizing that in our not just like high five training stuff, but like in our normal BAU how we do business.
Yeah.
Formally recognize.
Well, there's a few thoughts I'm having here. Like one of the thoughts is to make the rewards impactful, like just giving people high fives and like stars and stuff. That's only going to go so far, right? But actually rewarding them with things like you're saying, maybe there's two examples that I'm thinking of, right? So maybe they have to take less of the annual training because they've proved that they know what they're talking about from a security perspective. I'd love to do that if you can get away with that from a compliance standpoint, right? But some of the auditors aren't happy about that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, find a 2-minute video that you can
Oh, I have.
check the box and that's it.
And then the other thing that I have seen is, so if you have I've seen companies do this where they have security champions on dev teams, and once those security champions reach a certain level, they don't have to get certain approvals from the security team.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've built up that knowledge enough to where the security team can trust them to make certain decisions as well. Now, you can go too far with that. These are not security professionals, but maybe you could have like more of a closer access to the security team. Maybe they get priority, right? So now there's incentive.
Exactly what I was asking.
Well, so there's incentive for them to learn a little bit more and sort of level up as a security champion because it helps their entire team move faster because they have direct access to the security team at that point, right? Or they can get faster approval, or maybe they can handle some of the approval process as well. So yeah, you can do creative things like that.
So there was a question here.
Are you privy to any research that would help us probably get budget for, doing, working on programs like these? Because I figured that rewarding developers will take time, money, priority,
So are you privy to real world examples that people here in the room can use to get the buy-in from the business to spend that time, even if it's not money, time, focus on it.
Time and like I mentioned, so some of the SAPS rewards don't take a ton of money, so you can sort of lean into that stuff with just things like basic recognition and stuff, but you're asking about, is there any sort of data that we can show our leadership to invest in programs like this? There's not a ton right now. There's a bit of a call to action out there that I would throw to the world, and that's share more stories about this. If you're seeing success with these types of approaches, I think we need to talk about this more. I think I think security people in general, it's like, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on, but we don't want to share with the rest of the world. And I think it's doing us a bit of a disservice. So I think we need to just sort of talk about these anecdotal type things, but also share more data, right? In terms of, hey, there have been certain actions that we've been able to reinforce, and here's how specifically it's reduced our risk at our company. I think we need to just share that more and make more of a case, because it's hard to make a case. And I can talk about that for another 10 minutes, but maybe I'll hold off.
Anyone else?
Or maybe I should if no one is going to ask a question. Yeah?
Can you say a little bit more about the connection between the relationship building side of things and these automation tools? Because it kind of seems like automation tools, they're often running on their own. How do people fit into a program that's all about automation?
Yeah. I mean,
Can you explain the relationship between the automated tools? I'm good at this.
yes.
Between the automated tools, the relationship, and the developers and all the change that we are trying to do. Because automation tools run on their own. I'll see it. I want to hear this one.
Do you want to take a stab at answering that one?
No, I want to hear this one.
Okay. So I think who fixes the issues ultimately, right? So I think and this is why I was going to give you a chance, because I think there's some auto remediation opportunities out there, but I think ultimately what we need is the people at our orgs to take action if we're actually going to see a difference, right? So the tools can find these findings, but how do we actually make sure that we're reinforcing fixing those findings or taking other actions that make us secure? We can't do it ourselves, and like I said, automation won't save you. Okay, that means that these
Automation
tools,
alone,
they're not going to do all of this work for you. You actually need the people at your org, the devs, to do stuff, right? So how do you reinforce those actions? I've got a few thoughts, unless you want to jump.
I want to add one thing. So, yes, automatic remediation, they will create fixes. Are they fixing the problem? No, they just created the fixes. Even if it pushes it to GitHub, is the product more secure? No, because the developer at the end needs to push a button and commit the code and merge it. Until the fix is merged, no value came in. That's why automatic remediation, some of you are scared from automatic remediation. No, it can break my code. No, it cannot. It will just generate the fix. Someone that knows the code needs to look at it and say, yeah, that looks good, I will commit. Because that someone is responsible for the code. I know in some organizations, security team can make code changes and commit the code, but at the end there is a second code reviewer, and that is the person that is responsible. So there are automatic remediation tools. It helps to speed up the process. It saves time to generate the fix, but it doesn't fix the code unless it is being merged.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll mention, and you kind of touched on this too, but it's kind of part of your question as well, is how do you sort of make that case? How do you tie all of this relationship stuff to actual risk reduction? And I think what you need to do is make a case for correlate the two, right? It's very hard to show direct causation, like I built a relationship with this group, and because of that, they're actually fixing things quicker. How do you prove that? You can't really prove that directly, right? But you can draw correlations, okay? What you can do is you can say, hey, before we had a champion program, before we reached out and built all these connections and so forth, here was our defect escape rate. How many people have heard of this term, by the way, escape rate? Okay, so the idea is in your SDLC, how many issues are getting from sort of the left side into the right side? How many make it to production? How many make it to test, right, and so forth? That's your escape rate, because those vulns are escaping, right? Anyway, so how can we show that our escape rate is reduced based on the introduction of this new sort of approach, right? You can also split it up in terms of two different groups, right? So you can say, hey, this group has a strong security champion, right? Or this team has a security champion, so they have less vulnerabilities that they're introducing than these other teams, okay? So you can sort of make a correlation between the relationship building side and the actual security reduction of risk, so.
Just remember, it's not an or question, right? It's not, can I add the best automation tools and I'm done, or security champion to the best and it's done. Because have the best security champions in your organization, you still can't handle 1 million vulnerabilities in your backlog, right? You need to do both. You need to use the ASP. You need to use the new technology that will focus you on what to do, and then build that relationship that someone will actually do it. It's both. That's why we are here together. So.
Yeah,
Otherwise-
exactly. Both sides. Other questions?
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for staying. Look at all the people that stayed.
Right?
Thanks, everyone.